Hello guys, and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. Today in this video I want to talk about fiction versus non-fiction and make a case for fiction books. Let's get started. Alright, so if you know me, you know that I love reading. I had a period of time for about a couple of years of my life, maybe a little bit more, actually basically throughout my late teens and early 20s, I was mostly reading nonfiction. I read a lot of books on psychology, on neuroscience. I later on proceeded to study neuroscience, and I was really interested in these topics like manifestation and self-help books. I have a lot of them. I have to say that if you would like any good recommendations, I definitely have some because I read some really good books. Not a ton of them, but I read some really good ones. So I might make a separate video on that because they're actually really great. But I am very happy to say that I have full on come back to fiction. And at this point, I'm determined to mostly read fiction. I do read nonfiction every once in a while. Like if you watched my previous video, one of my most recent videos on the books that I read in May, there was a nonfiction book in there, and genuinely I read some nonfiction books this year already, but I am definitely determined specifically to read fiction at this point. And I want to tell you why. Also, this video is going to be helpful to you if you love fiction, but you feel bad reading it for some reason because you feel like it's not very helpful, it's not very good for you. You learn more from, nonfiction and stuff like that if you feel judged by other people. Yeah, that's complete nonsense, and I just wanted to make a short video to talk about why that is completely not true. Why reading fiction can actually be so much more beneficial. Like drastically so. From the perspective of neuroscience, some of the best genres you can actually read is fantasy. And when I learned this, I was not a fantasy reader. I was not a fantasy reader. I was just reading fiction. I was reading the classics and stuff like that. And that's just kind of what it was. I don't know. A lot of people believe that you learn a lot from reading nonfiction. Let me tell you something. I don't see anything bad in reading nonfiction because you can definitely learn some new things. What I believe you should do, if these are the kind of books you like to read, is determine what goals you have. So if you're reading a book on money, or if you're reading some self-help books or some manifestation books or psychology, neuroscience, whatever else, books on communication, relationships, so on and so forth, do understand which goals you have. I do recommend that you take notes maybe and underline, maybe tap your books, right? After you finish the books, I suggest that you write down the most important thoughts from them. I personally have a reading journal at this point, and I'm very much enjoying it. It's mostly fiction books in here, but we're talking about nonfiction first. So do that and make sure that you actually take the lessons from these books and apply them in real life. All right. This is the way to make the nonfiction books work for you and actually be helpful. There is no point in reading a ton of self-help books because at some point it just becomes repetitive and you understand that you are reading the same thing over and over again. This actually happened to me last year when completely out of nowhere I decided to read a book on manifestation that was kind of like on my TBR for the last decade, and I never touched it. I never read it. I have no idea why, but I read other books. And when I picked this one up, it was easy to read and it felt like a hug. It just felt very comforting. And that's just kind of what it was. I felt comforted, you know what I mean? It didn't necessarily give me any new information at all. And there's nothing wrong with that because, again, I felt good reading this book and I felt good after I finished it. But the most important thing is that you learn from these books and you apply this knowledge in real life. Now, if you're reading lots of these books solely because you believe they're going to be helpful to you, they're good for your brain, they're just good for your life, you're going to learn from them, they do recycle the same information over and over again. You're not doing anything helpful or useful to yourself. If that's what you enjoy, I personally don't care. I don't judge. Read whatever you feel like reading. But if you specifically believe that you are learning something or that you are being smart or something like that, that's actually not the case. You know what I mean? It only takes a few quality books for you to learn something on the topic. You don't have to, you really don't have to read a ton of them. We are talking specifically about like popular science and self help books here, really, right? Obviously, if you want to study a subject, that's a completely other topic, and we're not talking about here. Now, when it comes to fiction, and specifically fantasy, so what fiction does when you read about different stories, it does teach you empathy, okay? I feel like women probably, I don't know, I feel like women don't really need that so much because we have empathy. Most women that I met had empathy, not all of them though. So maybe, I don't know. Yeah. Anyways, fiction books do teach us empathy. All right. Another thing that fiction books do, they create whole new worlds in our heads. We're imagining what we're reading. We're creating new neurological pathways. All right. By creating whole new worlds and basically, seeing what we're reading and experiencing the things that we're reading about in our heads, obviously. And this is especially significant if you love fantasy or if you've been thinking about getting into fantasy. I've talked about it recently again in one of my previous videos because I really got into it. But this is not just about my tastes. Fantasy is talking about things that do not exist in our world. It makes us exercise our creativity. It really expands our minds and makes us imagine things that do not exist in the real world, which is a really, really good exercise for our brains. All right. We are expanding our imagination. We are exercising our creativity. It's incredible if you're a creative person because this is really, really good for you to, yeah, basically take it as an exercise, even though I really don't like reading books like that because I mean, I believe we should be reading for fun. If we're reading something that's, fiction, you should be definitely enjoying yourself. You are doing something really, really good for yourself if you are doing something that you are really enjoying. It's not harming anyone, right? And reading is a great exercise. Reading is a great thing to do that, is a great tool for that. It's really great if you are an entrepreneur, if you're any kind of business person, if you are working in arts, in fashion, if your job has to do with creativity, this is going to be really, really helpful because you are quite literally, like I said multiple times already, exercising your creativity. You're imagining things that don't exist. You're imagining whole new worlds, new characters, and you are living in that world while you're reading the books. And that is actually really good and healthy for your brain. So that is the good news. Yeah. Let's talk about some other benefits as well on top of expanding your creativity. So I already said that we are improving our empathy by reading fiction. We are also improving our emotional intelligence, which is a huge, huge thing. Reading fiction expands our creativity and improves our imagination, which is fantastic for children, of course, but you do not have to be a child to enjoy fiction. And it's actually really fantastic to read it as adults as well, because we almost feel like we can't read these fun books anymore once we are adults, but it's actually not true. It's really beneficial for us because it makes us our brains work harder and keep being creative, or improving our creativity and imagination. It's also really great for reducing stress and healthy escapism, especially nowadays. I personally do not see anything wrong with finding a good like outlet for escapism, I guess. It's obviously not a great thing if you're escaping from the world all the time, but I do completely understand. I don't judge, and I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting to escape to a better world or like a more fun, exciting place. So, reading fiction and especially fantasy is honestly a really great way to do that. It's fun, it's harmless, it's honestly amazing. Okay, reading fiction and fantasy also strengthens abstract and symbolic thinking. You're learning new vocabulary, new words, character names, of course, right? They can be really difficult to pronounce, or you might not even have an idea how to pronounce them. You learn the rules of the world, especially if the world includes magic. You are learning how this world works. You're learning to see patterns, and you learn about symbolism and metaphors, which is fantastic. It truly expands your capacity to think outside of the box and improves your cognitive flexibility, which is great. I do also believe it's a great thing that reading fiction and fantasy books improves, unless you're reading like dark fantasy, I guess, really gives you hope, which doesn't sound necessarily very professional, but I'm just a messenger, I guess. I truly believe it's a great thing that reading fiction and fantasy books gives us hope a lot of the times. It teaches us how to stay resilient and stay hopeful and stay strong. And this is honestly not useless at all, especially in today's world. And if anything, I think it's a great thing to do. A lot of the times, as kids, when we're reading fiction, we are imagining ourselves as the main characters of a fantasy book, and we are, it really helps us to stay strong and push through difficult times. This is honestly a great thing for us to do as adults as well. Like, this is not just escapism. Fiction can help us stay strong, resilient, and hopeful through the dark times. And if anything, it's a fantastic thing to do. So I strongly encourage you to give it a go and read some fantasy, because it is actually going to be highly beneficial for you and for your brain. Okay, anyways, you guys, I really hope you enjoyed this video. I really hope you found it helpful, and I really hope that I encouraged you to read more fiction and fantasy, especially if you really wanted to, but you felt like you shouldn't because you're an adult or something like that. Whatever. Please like this video, subscribe to my channel. If you want any recommendations for the books, please let me know in the comments below. If you have any other tips for healthy escapism, I guess, or if you want me to make videos on other topics, please let me know in the comments once again. And please like this video and subscribe to my channel, and I will see you in the next video.